What up? T-Bob here.
And Jake as well.
And look at you. You done stumbled upon little OTB Saints, where we bring you all the latest black and gold coverage.
Who are the Saints going to draft? Who's going to be their quarterback? What does the salary cap look like? All that information and more.
Hope you enjoy it. Like, subscribe.
I'm going to explain why none of this is Dennis Allen's fault. Here's why it's not Dennis Allen's fault. When you hire a coach that is a perennial loser, you should expect nothing but losses. In Oakland, 2012, he goes 4-12. In 2013, he goes 4-12. In 2014, 0-4, fired halfway through the year. Since he's been with the New Orleans Saints, 7-10. He went 9-8. Congratulations last year on the stellar win, Dennis. And now he's 2-6 this year, showing virtually no signs of life. This is not Dennis Allen's fault. Dennis Allen is not underperforming. Dennis Allen is doing exactly what he has always done his entire head coaching career in the NFL. This is Mickey Loomis's fault. One, because he won't do the right thing and move on from Dennis Allen. But also, let's look at the moves he did or did not make in the offseason. Jordan, what were the three biggest needs, you would say, for the Saints going into the draft?
O-line, receiver, and maybe a linebacker.
Linebacker, safety, somewhere there.
Definitely.
I would agree. Let's look what he did. So, you look at the Saints NFL draft. Hey, we got a left tackle. We got Taliese Fuaga, who I think is a stud.
Great pick.
That was an excellent pick. You're at 41 overall. There are a lot of talented receivers left. And I hate to do this because Kool-Aid McKinstry is such a talented player. Let's draft a DB and an outside corner at that, which is probably the deepest position on your entire team. But that's okay. You're going to trade Marshawn Lattimore, right? You're going to get a lot of draft capital back in return. That's what we heard all offseason. There's only one problem, though, guys. Marshawn Lattimore is still on the New Orleans Saints, which, again, that's great. He's a great player, but none of these picks make any sense. Look at what they did in free agency, okay? Who did they sign to shore up their offensive line? They signed Lucas Patrick and Oli Udoh. They are fine players. The problem is you had so many other players that you could have brought in that could have been immediate impact players for you. Why didn't you bring them in? Because you don't have any money. Whose fault is that? That is Mickey Loomis's fault. Why? Because he continuously restructures deals. He kicks the can down the road on these contracts. He's still in win-now mode contract-wise. The problem is you don't have a good enough roster or a head coach to be in win-now mode. You are $72 million over the cap space in 2025. The next closest team is 31. So you're about $30 million over the next closest team. $30 million over the other team that is also in Cap Hill. Think about that for a second. And you can say, okay, well, he tried. He tried to sign guys. Did he? I mean, you look at, you needed safety help. You talked about it all offseason. Mickey Loomis himself, Dennis Allen, they all talked about, hey, we got to get better at the safety position. We got a few guys we feel good about. None of them separated themselves. That's why we're going to give them a lot of reps in preseason. There were safeties you could have went out and got. Darnell Savage, he was a free agent this offseason. 27 years old, did a lot of good things at Green Bay. He goes to Jacksonville on a $21 million deal. You couldn't afford to pay him $21 million because you don't have enough cap space. You try to bring in Justin Simmons. Now, there's two problems with that. One, again, you couldn't afford Justin Simmons. But two, and this is going to sound bad if you're a Saints fan, if you're Justin Simmons, why the hell would you go to New Orleans over Atlanta? Why would you go play for Dennis Allen, knowing that he might not be there for a long time, although with this front office, he'll probably be there for another couple years. A team is old. They can't pay you any money. They cannot compete for the playoffs. If you're Justin Simmons, you're over the age of 30. You want to go somewhere where you can contend. So if all things are equal, even if the Falcons can't pay him that much, they look like a competent team, right? That's why they're doing well. They were able to sign Kirk Cousins. They bring in Darnell Mooney. They signed Justin Simmons. The Saints made no moves anywhere close to anything like that. Offensive line, same deal. Again, you signed Lucas Patrick, that's fine, but there were other guys you could have went after. Damian Lewis, the LSU product. He goes to your division rival in the Carolina Panthers. Why? You couldn't afford to pay him a big contract. He got a bag from the Carolina Panthers, $53 million deal. Lloyd Cushenberry, he could have helped you on the offensive line. Jonah Williams from Cincinnati. He hadn't been great, but he's probably still better than what you got. Only 26 years old. He leaves, goes to Arizona, $30 million deal. Nope, he's out of your price range as well. So who do you sign? You sign Lucas Patrick for $1.3 million, and you sign Oli Udoh for about $1 million as well. And the reason is because that's the only guys you can afford. So, guys, when you sign a head coach that coming into your organization was 8-28 as a head coach for the Oakland Raiders. He's now 26-52. He's 18-24 with New Orleans. He's actually better in New Orleans than he was Oakland. That's how bad of a head coach you hired. Now, he had a good defense for a number of years, but his defense isn't even good anymore. So again, this is not Dennis Allen's fault, guys, because Dennis Allen has always been this guy. Dennis Allen has always underperformed. He's always been one of the bottom head coaches in the NFL. This is nothing new. Mickey Loomis, however, he's still living in the past. He's living in the Breeze Payton years where he was allowed to kick the can down the road because you were trying to compete for a Super Bowl every single year. But what happens? You don't have the roster for that. And all of your best players are old right now. Let's call it like it is. Tyrann Mathieu, 32 years old. Mario Davis, Cam Jordan, they're both over the age of 34. You're paying these guys a lot of money, and they've done a lot of great things for the New Orleans Saints, but they're not the same players that they once were. This is not Dennis Allen's fault, guys. You can say, oh, well, Dennis Allen isn't winning games. He's never won games. He was a great defensive coordinator under Sean Payton when you had a Hall of Fame quarterback as well. His defenses have gotten worse every year he's been the head coach. They're not even a competent defense. I wouldn't even call them an average defense this year. They're bad. And it's not just because of injury. Again, you're paying these old players because you kick the contract down the road and you backlog their contracts so much that you're paying them a lot when they're 34, they're 35. They've lost a few steps as a player. It's not the player's fault. It happens to everyone. It's the front office's fault. It's the general manager's fault. You can't pay any young guys. You couldn't bring in a Justin Simmons. You didn't draft well. You got Taliesin Fuaga, but outside of that, you didn't really fill a ton of your needs. Kool-Aid McKintry's a good player, but could you have done without him? Yeah. I think a solid receiver in the second round would have helped you a lot more, especially with Olave being in and out of the lineup and Rashid Shaheed out for the year with injury. Your most consistent receiver health-wise has been Bub Means, and that's not really a good thing. You just re-signed Alvin Kamara, which is fine, but when I read that, I was like, why did either one of these guys make this deal? For the Saints, sure, you bring back one of your best players. Why? Your team around him is not good enough to win. And if you're Alvin Kamara, how the hell do you re-sign that contract? I'd go somewhere that I want to win. Alvin Kamara's a better man than me. He's being loyal to the team that drafted him. I get it, but I'm going somewhere where I can win a Super Bowl. That ain't in New Orleans, at least not anytime soon.
Wow, just amazing black and gold takes right there, Jake.
I don't think I've ever heard any takes that are better than the two guys that just gave you that take.
And you can keep getting them by going ahead and liking, subscribing, ringing the bell to get notifications when we post. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next OTB Saints.